how are you feeling going into this next round of talks?
That's hard to say. I mean, we certainly hope that the company has changed their position significantly so that we can address the outstanding issues. We said yesterday we're pretty skeptical of their motives, but we're prepared to work very hard at the bargaining table and see what we can do to get a fair deal for our members and ultimately the public.
So you say you're skeptical, but are you also feeling hopeful and optimistic at the same time?
Yeah, as a negotiator, you always have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So we certainly hope for the best. We don't want to see this dispute continue on any longer than it has to. But we know our members are firm and determined at the same time. So hopefully the company has received the message and we can have some productive negotiations.
Do you feel if it breaks off early, like it did last time, that it could be a long, protracted escalation of job action?
Well, the company's been saying now for quite a while that they've been wanting to come back to the bargaining table and that they're prepared to continue bargaining and they're not done. We were skeptical of that, so if we find that we spend a couple of days here in negotiations with an escalation on the horizon and we find out that there's a lot of game playing again, that will send a pretty strong message to our committee and our members, and so I think they'll probably dig in a lot firmer than before.
Are you settling in maybe and thinking about a couple of days here perhaps then?
Yeah, we're prepared to go all day today and tomorrow and do what we can to avoid any escalation. Yeah.
So what happened that changed your mind? Because you had said that you didn't want to go back in, and now you changed. So did something change?
I think what we heard was a change in the company's messaging. Initially, in the middle of last week when they asked us to come back, they asked us to simply talk about working conditions. We asked them whether or not they were willing to talk about the other issues, and we didn't hear anything. But then slowly over the weekend, we started to see the company starting to talk about that they understood that they needed to do something about guaranteed minimum break times and penalties, and that they weren't done bargaining, and they continued to say they weren't done bargaining. And so, we reflected on that, and we said, okay, it seems like the message has changed, and so we'll call their bluff. We'll go back to the table and we'll see if they're serious.
And you will leave if you don't like what they're saying?
Yeah, ultimately, if we can't reach a deal, then we're prepared to escalate on Friday.
Yeah. And we all know, but if you could reiterate what that escalation would look like.
So currently our maintenance and C-bus workers are refusing overtime and the drivers are stopped wearing uniforms. As of Friday, if we don't have a fair deal, then all of the drivers will also stop accepting any overtime on Friday. We think that'll have a significant impact on the system. It'll be hard to predict exactly where that impact will come out, but certainly for Friday there will be more disruption than normal. And then, of course, as I said, if we don't get a deal here, it tells us that the company was never serious, and then therefore we'll have to look at further escalation next week, probably more overtime bans, and we'll just keep continuing because our members are determined to get these issues addressed.
Sticking points are wages, working conditions, and benefits. Is that still a problem?
Yeah, we have, in any contract for 5,000 people, you have a lot of clauses on the table, but the key lightning rod issues are definitely working conditions, wages in terms of comparisons with SkyTrain and comparisons with places like Toronto. But there's a number of contract clauses that are on the table. We think with some good faith that we can get through that, but we need to deal with all outstanding issues. And when I did reach out to the company yesterday, I was very clear to say that we were prepared to return to bargaining, to bargain on all outstanding issues. And after I sent that message, we started to talk about the venue. So we assume that they're here ready to talk about all outstanding issues, and we certainly are. And we're certainly prepared to compromise where needed, but the issues themselves must be addressed in a meaningful way.
Gavin, the president of Gross Mountain has released a statement saying that while their current offer is in excess of public sector settlements in BC today, they're open to improving the overall proposal at the table, including working conditions. What does that say to you?
Well, again, I think it's a bit misleading because he continues to compare us to other public sector workers when we're doing the direct comparison with transit workers. We're not comparing ourselves to nurses and firefighters. We're comparing ourselves to people who work under TransLink for SkyTrain. We're comparing ourselves to other transit workers in large Canadian cities. So the offer should be better because we're comparing apples to apples, the same way they like to do the apples to apples comparison when it comes to CEO pay. So we certainly hope, again, they're here to address all of the outstanding issues, and we'll look carefully at whatever they give us. We know we're not going to get everything, but we need to make significant steps to close those gaps.